first. There'll be no outbursts from anyone in the courtroom, one way or the other. And then I'll give you, Ms. Avila, my thinking as to why I came down where I did. As to the crime of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm, a first-degree felony, I send you to 18 years followed by 2 years parole. I'm going to suspend 2 years. So you do 16 years in the Department of Corrections with credit for time served. You have 475 days pre-sentence confinement credit. While in the Department of Corrections, you will participate in complete course of cognitive behavior therapy, which will deal with some of your psychological problems. You'll complete a course on parenting skills, and you will participate in any vocational training or college classes during that period of time. I impose a mandatory $5 domestic violence treatment fee, $75 Crime Victims Reparation Act fee, $100 DNA fee. I do find that this is a serious violent offense, which means that your day's credit, the most you could get for good time would be 4 days per month. And I based that upon finding that this was a heinous crime.
Six months have passed since the brutal killings on November 13th. Crime tape still surrounds the property. The snow has melted away, and there's more greenery in the back. 6 months later, the trash is still exactly how it was that night. Sometime around 4 a.m, the suspect snuck into the home and exited through the sliding glass door in the back. Eventually, the home will be torn down, and a garden will be put in its place, with a memorial in honor of the victims.
I'm going to show you something now. This is the moment that the nurse comes into the room where Alexi is with her mom and explains what has just transpired, because mom doesn't know. Mom doesn't know. Let's watch.
I'm sorry. We discovered a dead baby in the bathroom. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Freaking out and we didn't know what to do. Lexi, I told you about this. I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth. It was not crying or nothing. What did you do to it? Okay, stop right here. Stop. Number one priority, guys. Number one priority is she just had a baby. I don't know if she's delivered the placenta. She's bleeding significantly. Yeah. I was spoken to the obstetrician at Loveless. They want her up there as soon as possible. I'm sorry about this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved. And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing. I know. But the baby's gonna have to be taken for autopsy and He'll be an investigator and everything. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm sorry. How big is the baby? It's confirmed. What? 9 months? That thing was crying. Lexi, have you watched the news of the girls that what they do to their babies and when they go to jail? That thing was crying.
Any other questions?
So last night on Dateline, it is said that one of Bryan Kohberger's sisters believed that he is the killer. She said that he was doing weird things like putting latex gloves on every time they were doing something. And they even discussed it during dinner, but his father doesn't believe that he is, but his sister does. Take a listen and let me know what you guys think.
Across the Poconos in Pennsylvania, families were celebrating. It was Christmas Eve 2022. And the Kohbergers' home in Albrightsville was no different. Except, they were different. According to our source, investigators learned the following. One of Bryan's 2 older sisters, home for the holidays, brought up an uncomfortable topic. The sister had noticed Bryan had been wearing latex gloves. She thought it odd. And at some point, the sister, quite loudly, pointed out that at the time of the murders in Moscow, Bryan had lived just a few miles away in Pullman, and that Bryan drove a white Elantra, a car that law enforcement across the nation was looking for. Add that to the gloves, and the sister said she thought the Kohberger family should consider that Bryan might have killed the 4 students in Moscow. Our source says Bryan's father said no, he didn't believe that. But then, our source says, several members of the family actually went outside to look for evidence in Bryan's white Elantra, and they didn't find any. But by then, police had already observed Bryan cleaning the car with bleach. We reached out about this to an attorney close to the family. He told us the family would have no comment. As Christmas came and went, FBI agents were watching the Kohberger home in Pennsylvania. On December 27th, they pulled trash at the home and flew it across the country to the Idaho State Lab for testing. They got the results the next day.
The DNA that they got, they realized, was from the person who was very, very, very likely to be the father of the person who committed the crime. Now, we know Bryan Kohberger is with his parents. So the DNA that they pulled, they suspect, is his father, the father of the person who committed the murder.
Just days later, on December 30th, approximately 1:30 a.m., it all went down. Dozens of local, state, and federal agents descended on the Kohberger home, and when agents moved in, it may not surprise you to learn, Bryan Kohberger was awake. He was, according to a prosecutor, standing in the kitchen, wearing latex gloves, putting his personal trash into Ziploc bags to be taken, our source says, to the trash can of a neighbor. What did you make of that?
Well, I made of that he was protecting his DNA. He was basically worried.
Bryan Kohberger was under arrest. The news was breaking.
This morning we were being told that a person of interest taken into custody.
As the day went by, everybody learned more.
What I can tell you is we have an individual in custody.
Breaking news, authorities have now confirmed that they did find items in the search for Madeleine McCann. Authorities have taken away a number of bags for further examination. If authorities believe the items found have a potential significance, they will be taken to a forensic laboratory for further investigation. They are believed to be looking for Madeleine's pink pajamas similar to these that she was wearing the night she disappeared. Today, divers are also expected to join in the search. This comes after authorities say they are, quote, seeking any fragments of clothing and old rags. They have erected multiple tents closer to the shoreline. The white one is for evidence and the yellow one is for gear. Here's a look at some video. Scotland Yard detectives also stated that they are relaying any key information back to Madeleine McCann's parents. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The woman you're about to meet is a survivor. For years, she suffered abuse at the hands of the very person who was supposed to keep her safe, her dad. This story is confronting, but it's one Jessica wants to share after she fought so hard to bring him down.
I think the hardest part is the fact that I was so innocent and I was so vulnerable.
Being a child wasn't easy for Jessica Gardner.
I don't know anything worse that anybody could do to a child.
She lived in fear of her father, especially when they were alone.
He was always just abusing us, swearing at us, pushing us from my earliest memories.
Were you scared of him?
I was petrified. I was terrified of the man.
A father should be his daughter's greatest protector, who will do anything to keep her out of harm's way. But Jessica's dad did the total opposite. Peter Gardner sexually abused his little girl for almost her entire childhood, and all at the one place she was supposed to feel safe, the family home.
I had no idea. I just thought this was just what happened between parents and children. I just thought that this was normal.
What Jess would do to rescue her 5-year-old self, a kindy kid who should have been able to trust her dad. Instead, he betrayed her in the most depraved way.
My brother used to do karate lessons. He used to do them once a week, and Mum would take him. And I remember I was so scared for her to leave because I knew what was coming.
When you would put your head down on the pillow at night as a little girl, would you think about it?
Yeah. I was scared because that's when he used to come in, when everyone had been to bed.
So the rest of the family sleeping in the house?
Yeah.
And he'd sneak into your room?
Yeah, and I had to be quiet because otherwise Mum was going to find out and she would have been so disappointed in me and she would have been angry at me and she wouldn't love me anymore.
What Peter did to his daughter on a weekly basis is too disturbing to detail. But it went on for years, from when she was 5 until she was 11, learning about sex education at school.
And it was just like an epiphany moment that I'd realised what was going on and that that's not something that's supposed to happen to children, let alone from their own father. And I just had to sit there in pure shock, putting the pieces together of what had happened over the past many years between me and Peter.
Why do you call him Peter?
Because he doesn't deserve to be called a father. He's never been a father. He's been a predator. He's a pedophile.
The next time Peter went to prey on his daughter would be the last.
I just remember I looked him dead in the eyes and I said no. And we were both just looking each other in the eyes and he knew that I figured out what was going on. And it never happened again after that.
It would take more than a year for Jess to find the courage to tell her mum.
I'll never forget the look on her face. It was just pure shock.
But Peter denied everything. And devastatingly for Jess, at first, her mum believed him.
He said, that never happened. It never happened. He'd never do that to me. He'd never touch me in that kind of way. We were just mucking around and I can remember it wrong. And I had made up this story. Like, it's an adult against a child. Who do you believe?
Jess knew the time would come to prove her parents wrong. And that moment finally came 10 years later when she was 22 and least expecting it.
One of my girlfriends and her partner had a baby. And I was holding her and she was so sweet. It's so cute. It's so innocent. And I just remember I looked at her and I was like, how could somebody do that to somebody, to a child, to a baby? And I just knew at that point that I had to do something.
Before Jess could go to the police, they called her after receiving an anonymous tip-off. It would be the first time Jess met Senior Constable Alison Fitzpatrick. Alison, Jess is a real inspiration, isn't she?
She is. She's an incredibly strong woman.
Unaware police were onto him, Peter planned to take off with his dirty secret to the other side of the world.
He was putting in a visa to move to Thailand permanently, and I was like, you can buy children over there. Those children don't have any rights, and there's no way in hell I'm going to sit here and let him do that to another child.
But Jess's word wasn't going to be enough. She needed evidence of her father confessing to his heinous crimes. And she got it. This is it.
I want to know what was going through your head when you did those things to me.
I've thought about it, darling. I've thought about it so much as to what would make me want to do that.
Do what? I want you to tell me.
Exactly what you said, perform with you. Like you were the innocent one in it. I was supposed to be the one that knew better.
You're supposed to be my dad.
I don't know. I didn't even think of the consequences. I know that it all happened. I'm not going to deny that, Tyler. I can't do that.
I just want an explanation. And maybe an apology?
An apology? I cannot apologise enough for it. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did it.
March 10 last year, time was up for Peter Gardner.
The day he gets arrested and you know that he's in custody, how did you feel?
Broken but relieved at the same time. Like I had literally just sent my father to prison. But then it was such a relief to know that he couldn't go anywhere and he couldn't get away with it.
Gardner pleaded guilty to 8 child abuse charges, including sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 10 and maintaining an unlawful relationship with a child. Arriving at Goulburn Courthouse, Jess couldn't have been more ready for Peter to pay.
What do you want to happen to your father today?
I need justice for everything that he put me through.
Jess is staunch, knowing her father is staring down life in prison. Via video link from a jail cell, Gardner showed no emotion as his daughter poured her heart out to the court, detailing the damage he has done. She told him no child should want to die because of what their parent has done to them. In handing down his sentence, the judge noted Jess's father had admitted to his crimes in not 1 but 2 recorded conversations. He was sentenced to at least 6 years and 3 months in jail. With time already served, Peter Gardner could walk free in just over 5 years.
He abused me for more years than he's getting sentenced. That's not fair.
It's a breach of the greatest trust that is ever there. That child's innocence can never be brought back again. But unfortunately it happens. It happens regularly.
Detective Superintendent Jane Doherty leads the New South Wales Child Abuse and Sex Crime Squad.
We would love to see a lot of them put away for a lot longer than they are, but unfortunately that's out of our hands.
It must be frustrating when you have such a strong brief. I mean, briefs don't come stronger than Jess's.
They are, but we can't get consumed by just the result at the end of the day. The important thing for victim survivors is that they've been believed. It's been reinforced by the court that they're correct, that their version was correct. And that offender has been held to task. Whether they get 6 years, whether they get 60 years, we will now have that offender identified to police so that we can limit their contact with children in the future.
Jess is one tough chick. She holds her own as an apprentice carpenter and hopes to one day put her trade to good use.
Build some kind of safe environment and housing for women and young families and children in these situations to be able to get out.
What a special place that will be, huh?
Yeah.
Built with your own hands.
Yeah, hopefully.
She knows there are many victims out there just like her. And Jess wants them all to see. Having the guts to speak up isn't easy, but it's worth it.
You get to have the last say when it comes to your father. What are those words?
I won. You don't start a battle when you can't win a war, and there's no way in hell he's gonna win it. He never really stood a chance against me. He built me to be able to take on the devil.
And win.
And win.